Insightful storytelling, great characters, independent authors, brilliant cyberpunk, young adult, and brain twisters, mind benders, and favorite authors. And that includes Nnedi Okorafor. And I'm Michael Leverts, and this is Fit to be Read. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Michael Leverts. This is Fit to be Read. Today I'm talking about my 2022 bookish goals and my immediate schedule for this channel. The first thing I want to talk about is my long-term read, which is actually not science fiction. I've mentioned this in episodes past, but I always have a long-term read going on. And for the past 2 years for me, it's been The Far Pavilion. The Far Pavilions is a really great novel. It's not science fiction. It's set in India. It has really great character work. It's got great drama. It's got great suspense and really good action. I'm not taking 2 years to read this book because it's not a good book. I'm really making this last. And I'm also reading a lot of science fiction in between, so it's taken me a while. So my expectation, my goal this year is to complete The Far Pavilions. I've got about 300 pages left in an 1,100-page novel. And following that, my next long-term read is probably going to be The Count of Monte Cristo, so I also have a goal of starting The Count of Monte Cristo sometime this year. My next goal is similar to a goal that I had in 2001 that I succeeded at, and that goal was to consider who are my 6 favorite authors and read at least 2 novels by each of those authors. This year, I'm expanding that a little bit, and my goal is think about my 7 favorite authors and then read at least 2 novels by each of those authors. So 14 of the novels that I read this year are going to be sort of limited to those authors. And this year I'm going with, for my favorites, I'm going with Ursula Le Guin, Samuel R. Delany, Isaac Asimov, Greg Egan, Nnedi Okorafor, and Ray Bradbury. Those are the first 6, and those are the same 6 I had last year. And the 7th one I'm going to put on this year is Neal Stephenson. So I'm already a little bit ahead of the game because I did finish already this year a reread of Snow Crash. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in a second. So I'm going to get to work on that. I usually read about 40 to 45 books a year. That's sort of my max, is in the 45 to 50 range. So again, 14 of those are going to be reserved for favorite authors. So I'm excited about that. I also have as a goal 40 to 45 books. So if I can get 40 to 45 books read this year, I'll be really happy with that. If I can somehow get to 50, I'll be really happy with that. As long as I'm not rushing it or trying to just meet the goal and taking shortcuts and reading a lot of short stuff. My goal is I'd like to increase my reading speed without sacrificing the enjoyment. So I'd really love to end up around 45 books read this year. Another goal is that I want to read 2 each of young adult science fiction. One of those is going to be Iron Widow. I've heard a lot of really good things about this. I'm also planning to do this as a buddy read with Robin from the book Wormhole. So keep an eye out for that. I'm excited about it. I haven't really done buddy reads before as a YouTuber or a booktuber. So I'm looking forward to doing that with Robin, who does really phenomenal reviews. I'm going to put her channel in the description so you can check her out also. I want to do 2 non-sci-fi reads. Last year, I'm not quite sure how many non-sci-fi reads I did. The one that's sort of standing out for me right now is Balzac and the Little Chinese Seamstress by Dai Sijie. And then I also want to make sure that I get 2 LGBTQ plus central novels on my reading list this year. So a couple of things that are a little bit more off the beaten path than what I usually read, which is generally classic and modern science fiction. I'd also like to get in at least 4 indie reads this year. Last year, I only got, I think, 2 indie reads in, and I like doing those reads and, recognizing and bringing attention to these really great indie authors and their indie titles. And last year, I did Refraction by Wick Welker, which is a very great read. I also did The Nemesis Effect that was written by Michael Schotter, and I really want to read more by both of those authors, so I think I'm going to do that. I'm definitely going to get to Wick Welker again this year because I know he has a new release. I have to check in and see if Michael Schotter does or not, but I may read one of his older things as well. but Wick Welker has Dark Theory coming out, and this one looks like a real chunker, so it's going to be fun to get into this. I really liked Refraction this year, and I just feel like he's one of these authors who already has it, but I think his stuff is just going to get better and better. So if Refraction was any indication, I think this one's going to be a really great read for me this year. I'm also, of course, going to take a look at my TBR list. I did a couple of TBRs last year and talked about some books. Sometimes you get to the TBR, sometimes you don't. I'm definitely a mood reader. When I finish a book, what usually happens is I finish a book, and in that moment I think, okay, what do I want to read right now? And I consider the TBR, but then I also look at the bookshelf and something jumps at me. I just take that and run with it. The only way that doesn't really happen is if I'm reading a book and I'm like halfway through and then maybe I misplaced the book, or I'm at my office and I don't have the book with me, but I want to do some reading. I pick something else up and then I get started on that. And maybe that wasn't in the works and I wasn't planning on it, but now that I started that, that's going to be the next book that I read too, because I don't want to have to go back and restart that again. And usually those are rereads also. Then I get through that, and then I get to pick the book that I'm really in the mood to read. Off of my TBR, the rereads that I think I'm going to do this year, I definitely am going to get to Ender's Game. I also want to get to the Foundation series again. Both of those were like way high up on my top 150 science fiction reads list. So I want to get through those again. Snow Crash was on that list. I did get through that. Talking about this is going to be a little bit fun. Something really unique I'm going to do this year. A lot of times in my videos, I do use the green screen and I put some graphics up. What I'm doing with Ender's Game, and I've already done this, I have some original artwork that I'm going to do for this. If you look online for like fan art for Ender's Game, or you look at Ender's Game pictures, things like that, you're going to get a lot of stuff from the movie, but it's also such a popular book, you're going to get a lot of fan art. But if you watch a lot of YouTube videos and BookTube about Ender's Game and they have art in them, you do see a lot of the same, and they're really good, so that's why. So of course, what I want to do though is I want to put out some original stuff that I think really fits the story. I'm not going to do every scene of the book, but I want to do like at least like 5 or 6 scenes and really create a different experience with that review. Taking that even a step further with Snow Crash, this review is probably going to be coming up in February. With Snow Crash, I am going to do very extensive fan art and recreation graphic representation of this book. I'm also going to do an original soundtrack using covers on certain songs, but with my own lyrics, and then maybe even some original music as well. So look out for that Snow Crash review. That's going to be really cool, and it's going to be really fun. And if not, it was at least really fun for me. So look out for that one. And then finally, I want to do 2 original tags again this year. I did that last year. I did my first original tag. I did a few tags last year, but original tags that I created, I did the Around the World in 80 Pages tag. And if you've been tagged in that and you haven't done it, please get around to that one, because I think if you like to do a lot of tags and you look at the questions on that one, you're going to really enjoy it. It's a really cool tag. It's a great tag also for your subscribers and viewers, because it really takes you around the world, and it's something that I think can add a lot of value to people who are watching the video, because they're going to hear about books set in Africa, set in Asia, set in Europe, set all around the world, and there's a lot of really good representation in that tag video. The other one I just did in December, and that was the Your Mount Rushmore tag. So that tag was all about who are the authors that would be on your Mount Rushmore. And then we also talked a little bit about YouTube channels as well. So it was really a celebration of BookTube, talking about authors, but also talking about and recognizing really great content creators. And I'm really curious about that one too, because that's like sort of a question, like if I ever hang out with anybody who is bookish, that question always comes up. Who is your favorite author? Who are your top 3, top 4, top 5? The Mount Rushmore sort of limits you to 4, but you can always break the rules if you want to. But that's a really fun way to kind of get to know you with content creators that you really like to watch. This year, I don't already have in mind what the tags will be, but it has to. I'm not going to just create a tag just to create a tag. Those 2 tags that I created last year were things that I really felt strongly about. Like, I want to know these answers. So if they come up to me naturally that I want to ask these questions and there's enough of those questions to put in one particular tag, I'm going to create that tag. So I really hope I come up with at least 2 of those this year. And then finally, there are a few tags that I was tagged in last year, and because I was doing original tags and because I spent like 5 months of the year working on that top 150 science fiction reads list. Check out that video if you haven't already. It's really long. You don't have to read it or watch it in one sitting. Use it as a resource, come back to it. Maybe you're going to find some cool science fiction stuff there that you hadn't thought about. I've got blurbs for each of the books that I mentioned, so you get a good feel of like maybe there's something there that you want to read. Because of that, I didn't get to all the tags that folks had tagged me in last year, so I'm going to try to get through some of those tags also. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you for joining me today. This is Fit to be Read. I'm Michael Leverts. Please click like, please click subscribe, please click the notification bell, and YouTube will let you know every Thursday at 1 o'clock when I release new content. Thank you.